expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes, to renting versus selling, and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi everyone, welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week we talk about something that'll help you make a little money, save a little money, or maybe just help you navigate this crazy world that we live in. Today we're going to talk about what's going on in the real estate industry with mortgages, and we're here with our specialty mortgage guy, Max Fisch with Nationwide Mortgage. Welcome, Max.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Thank you for being here. So, what is going on in the mortgage industry?
Well, you know, it's odd because we have the last few months, especially the fourth quarter, there's been 2 rate cuts, right, by the Fed. And it's, you know, it's caused this frenzy of, hey, mortgage rates are down, you know, maybe it's the right time to buy a home. And then there's this massive amount of information coming out letting consumers know, and just the general public, that no, hold your horses, that's not mortgage rates, that's consumer debt, right? And we've had those discussions even on the show.
But I'm not going to hold my horses.
But really, it comes down to events that are happening all throughout our country and even internationally, right? Because when the election came, people thought that if there was a certain result, that rates would react differently. And if you look at the data, almost every single week after the election, rates have been worse than they were prior. And so really what is being pushed now, and the understanding is that it's not just these few things that we can point to say, okay, here, this is going to impact rate, right? It's things all over the globe that are impacting the local economy and market here, and making investors feel strong or weak about, you know, the direction of our economy as a whole.
So when you say investors, when you're talking about that, in what respect are you talking about?
Yeah, so I'm talking about investors on the secondary market that purchase mortgage-backed securities.
Okay, and would you say that they're feeling secure?
I would say not. I would say they are feeling secure. And that's why they're not buying mortgage-backed securities. So how it works typically is the worse the economy does, the more that investors on the secondary market want to purchase mortgage-backed securities, because mortgage-backed securities are a safe investment.
Okay.
So if the economy's not doing well, you find safe haven in mortgage-backed securities, right? If the economy's doing really well, then they're taking their money and they're putting it in the stock market and other facets, right? And so what do banks need to do, and what do mortgage entities need to do to attract these investors back? Raise their interest rates. Right. So that's kind of how that back end ecosystem works.
So we're getting ready. We're going into a new year, right? We're in a new year.
Yeah.
We're in a new year, and would you say that the buyer's confidence is high or low?
I would say buyer's confidence is higher than it was
2 years ago,
even in the middle of 2024.
Okay.
I think it's probably higher than it was 6 months ago.
I don't know. I feel like it's been stable though. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything drastic.
Right.
I think if you look back on, you know, the last couple of years, it's drastic, because a couple of years ago it was like doomsday, you know. But now.
But it's not doomsday for you.
No. I think I'm talking about the perspective, right?
I mean,
People.
You've been doing better and better every single month.
You know.
Are you up like 200% from 2 years ago?
More than 200%.
That's like unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a blessing, to be honest with you. But it's really, listen, there's activity. There's
Right.
activity out there. You know, it's just you just have to be able to understand the pain points of what's going on before they're brought to your attention. So it's about being proactive and not reactive.
Would you feel, or do you feel that with the changes with the realtors have affected the real, like, are you seeing a difference in the amount of realtors that are out there in the market since we've had the change in August?
You know, personally, I haven't seen much of a change since the change, right? I haven't seen.
So you're still seeing the commissions being paid for by the seller.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of fallout with
Right.
that. You know,
Discussion, yes, but not. It's
Yeah,
like-
of course.
It's kind of like start the discussion, end the discussion, move on.
yeah, it's just what it does is, and I think it's good for our business. What it does is it creates a more informed buyer and seller. They understand what's going on. They understand who's getting paid what, and so there's just more transparency.
Right.
But in my opinion, it hasn't changed necessarily the way people are doing business or the effectiveness of how they do business. It's just, here's my value. If you see it, then I get paid for it.
Right.
If you don't,
So any really like crazy situations that have happened in the last,
yeah. So as far as,
anything that you think that is like different?
yeah, I would say that there's been, there's definitely been an uptick. I'll tell you, there's definitely been an uptick in non-QM loans.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would you say that that's condo situations?
Well, I think it's not necessarily condos. It's really, especially being down in South Florida, we have such a high buyer pool that's self-employed,
Okay. That
right?
makes sense.
And so there's been some situations where, the different self-employed guidelines that people and criteria that people have to meet for a regular conventional loan, you're starting to see. I saw an individual the other day that he makes $3 million a year.
Is he married?
And
Sorry.
he makes $3 million a year, and I'm not kidding you. On his tax return,
Oh, you said theirs. Never mind.
his net profit was $13. Net profit.
What?
So that was a really strange thing because it's like not zero, not, it was $13
Was
net
it
profit.
legit? I mean,
Now, I can't speak to that, but what I will say is that guy's not paying any taxes, which
so
however
he's doing your 9% mortgage.
however he's getting there, that's up to him and his accountant. But
So
it's interesting because somebody like that, comes and wants to buy let's just call it $1 million home.
that's it?
And yeah, let's just say he wants to buy a $1 million home, and he's like, I'll qualify for this easy. And then you look at their tax returns and you're like, you don't qualify for anything. You don't qualify for a cell phone payment.
It's funny that you get people that make money that say that all the time.
Yep. So, there's a difference. And I tell people, there's a difference between mortgage qualification, sometimes common sense, and sometimes what you actually make and can afford. Affordability, common sense, and mortgage qualification don't always work together in perfect harmony.
Believe it or not, I'm sure this is something that you do all the time. I had a client years ago.
Yeah.
And they didn't qualify. They when they came to me, they're like, "Oh, we have lots of money," and I was like, "Oh, okay." Now, what's a lot of money to you and what's a lot of money to me? Like, that's two different things, right? But
Sure.
they were like, we have a lots of money. Okay, great. And then they were, we had to end up paying their car off in order for them to qualify for anything.
Yeah.
So it's funny. People come to me all the time. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I go, and you try to have that conversation nicely and say, you know what? I hear that all the time. People say that they're fine, but really,
Yep.
they're not.
Yep.
So.
It's funny you brought up paying the car off because one cool, I guess, trick of the trade that we've been able to take advantage of is for conventional loans. If you have a car payment, let's say, you don't always need to pay that off if you don't want to include that payment. Let's say somebody has $1,000 a month payment
Okay.
and they owe $11,000.
Okay.
Some loan officers will go to them and say, you need to pay $11,000 off. I would go to them and say, as long as you can pay it down to having less than 10 payments remaining,
Right, because that's what.
I can take it away. So I just save that person thousands of dollars, right? Because they just need to go from 11,000 to below 10. They would have less than 10 months of payments
Yeah,
remaining.
a lot of people don't know that.
And then I
mean,
can take that away.
And a lot of the mortgage brokers are just trying to take away the whole because.
Yeah, they'll just tell them to pay it off.
Yeah, and sometimes that gets to like different than the debt to income ratio versus
Yeah.
the.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's just about making client experience the best, keeping money in people's pockets, and not throwing too many variables and curveballs, because right now more than ever, talk about buyer confidence. Buyers are almost looking for a reason to talk themselves out of doing what they're doing.
Right.
Right. And so if you can create such a good experience to where they don't want to talk themselves out of it, then, results in closings.
Right. Well, we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to come back and talk about why you should be buying now and why you should be giving Max and I a call and that you should be buying now. So stay tuned to find out why you should be buying now.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fisch, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fisch is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations, ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fisch today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FIRPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at thelaurazell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. I'm here with the amazing Max Fisch, talking about mortgages, and we're discussing why you should still be buying. And I have to tell you, I stay in contact with my clients for years and years and years and years, and I've been doing this for many, many years, right? I have to say, I go back and look and see what they paid, and I go, it's inevitable. No matter when you buy, it's always going to be worth more. And if you don't buy now, then you're going to wait till it's later, it's going to be more. So I truly believe that if you can afford the payment, that you really, really should be buying now.
Yeah.
And waiting is only creating to cause you more money.
100%. And there's different variables property to property, and it's not always about the purchase price, right? And so I think people subconsciously know this, but they forget it when they're in the fire and they're in the hot seat and like, hey, you're the one purchasing the home. I think we're guilty of that too, right? Like,
I mean, I
even
get
being in
scared.
this business, I've bought homes and I do things that I tell buyers not to do all the time and not to worry about. And there's just something about you being in that position that you just lose all sight of what you actually know.
Well,
right?
You were just asking me a question about something, and I know that was probably because you were wondering what other people think about certain areas,
Yeah.
or cost expenses to live in a certain area, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, I'll give you an example. Years and years ago, my cousin came to me and he says to me, I want to buy in this, I think it was like Boca Grove or something like that, right? And I said to him, do you see the days on the market? And at the time, this is before COVID, you were seeing 700 days on the market. And I said, let me ask you a question. Now, I'm not, this is in general. I said, let me ask you a question. If you lose your job tomorrow, would you be able to sell this property right away? And he looked at me and I said, it's been on the market 700 days. Let's look at another one in the community. How long has that been on the market? Mm-hmm. So you got to look at saleability. How long is it going to take me to sell this? If I was to get sick, or my other co-partner got sick and we couldn't afford this anymore, can we sell it? Yeah. That's what you have to look at, all the different avenues. If I lost my job tomorrow, could I pay the maintenance fee? Could I afford the taxes, right? Now, a lot of times you're not going to be able to afford those things, right? You're not. But is it sellable? How quickly will it sell?
Sure.
Do I have enough money to tide me over till that happens?
Yep.
These are the questions you got to ask yourself, right?
Yeah,
and feel comfortable with
There's
it.
a ton of different variables.
Right.
Right. And you know, I had a client, I'll give you a perfect example, that was in they were looking in the 1.1 million range. Mm-hmm. That's where their comfortability was, and there was a home that they liked that was 1.5. So at face value, it was $400,000 more than where they were looking, but it was in an area that was newer build, newer construction, and insurance was significantly less.
That makes
the
sense.
Insurance was $7,000 to $8,000 a year less. So you know, you're talking about $600-$700 a month difference there.
Right.
Right. And so just having that number change in their monthly payment increased their affordability by a lot. Now, some people would get caught up in that purchase price. That's way out of my range. Right. But that's why it's important to
ask questions.
And to partner with people, insurance,
portability,
you know, title for certain questions, realtor, mortgage, because there's different perspectives and there's different things that can make something more or less affordable. It could go the other way too. You could be in 1.1 range and find something at $1 million, but if there's something about that property that's causing, you know, a higher payment or whatever, you know, you just want to partner with people that can help you sort through the affordability of it.
Right.
It's not just in purchase price all the time.
I agree. I
You know?
agree. And that's the thing, like sometimes even with sometimes I'm working with a client and they pick their own mortgage person, right? And I say to them, they're selling a house, right? Mm-hmm. So now they get their payment, they go, oh, it's going to be too high for me to buy. They go, can I see what your taxes are on your estimate? And I look at them and I go, so they've estimated your taxes on, let's just say $1 million house.
Yeah.
They estimated their taxes to be $18,000.
Wow.
But let's just say they've lived in their home for 15 years. And I look and I go, but your taxes aren't going to be 18. They're going to be 14. So divide that 4,000 by 12, right? So now you're talking about a $300 difference a month in payment.
Yep.
And maybe they feel a little more comfortable with that payment, if that makes sense.
The tax thing is huge too, because of portability.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, portability is a really cool tool to use for people.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? It's funny. That's why the experience, right? Your experience, understanding, being able to show them, looking at the whole scenario and brainstorming, like you said, paying the car down to where there's only 10 payments left versus paying it off completely.
Yeah.
That could make the difference that the deal actually happens, where if you say to them, I need you to pay off your $11,000 on your car, they might be like, I don't have $11,000, but maybe they have $6,000.
Yeah, or
whatever,
exactly.
to get it to a place that makes a better. Or I've even done before where I've gone to a credit union, refinanced their car, they end up getting a lower payment.
Yeah.
Their interest rate was currently like 8, and now I get them down to 5 or 5.5 or 4.5 or whatever is going on at the time. And now their payment is significantly less, which now helps them to qualify. It's doing these things that make the difference.
Exactly.
I was on a listing appointment before I came here, and I told the lady, I said, what makes you different than other people? Well, I said, I'm relationship based. It goes way above and beyond just the numbers. But everybody said my house is worth this. I go, great. And that's the easy way out.
Yeah.
Because, we don't want it to be sitting on the market. Why don't we want it to sit on the market? What's the difference if it sits for 2 weeks or it sits for a day? I know that if you sold my house in a day, I'd be like, you undersold my house.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different factors in real estate. As obviously I'm preaching to the choir here, but time of year. You know, like there's just a lot of
You know, I'm a little confused on that. I'll be honest with you. So
it's a mental thing.
it is. I mean, you know, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I actually, if I was you, would put my house on the market now.
Yeah.
Because lack of inventory. We were doing photography today on a house, right? And I was like, I'm excited because it's like the best looking thing on the market right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best thing on the market.
Yeah.
I'm super, super excited. It's always good when your realtor's excited about your house.
But you know, and it goes, I've said this on the show a bunch of times that finances are 80% behavior and mental and 20% actual math.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with finances, a lot of times, like, all reason goes out the window.
Right.
It's all about feeling and, you know, kind of going with, you know, if everybody else is driving 65 miles per hour, you're going to stay within that window, do not stick out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, you know, everybody waits until January to potentially list. So it's not a good time to list now. Right. There's no real solid evidence that shows that. It's just a feeling.
Well, let's also just step outside the box so that we don't do what everybody else does.
That's what I mean. But it's funny because it's like, well, what data are you making that decision based off of?
For me, it would be experience, right? But that's when I say I'm confused because it's like COVID threw everybody off.
Yeah.
That changed everything. And for me, it's like, when's a good time to buy stock? When you have money.
Yeah.
When's a good time to buy a house? When you need one.
Yeah.
And you can afford it, of course, right?
Yep.
So if you were going to give a piece of advice to people out there today thinking about buying, what would be your number one piece of advice?
Don't listen to the news.
What is the news?
Don't listen to, you know, the mortgage application data is down, the interest rates are super high at you know,
Down where?
all-time highs, and exactly all-time highs in the last few decades. I mean, we're almost, and not to get too political here, but we're almost in a society where it's like, guys, just focus on what you see and what you know rather than what you hear all the time, right? Because there's a lot of agenda being pushed from all different directions. And so, just like you just said, Laura, if you need a house and you can afford it, buy a house.
But here's the funny thing. You say mortgage applications are down, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just look at this in like what I call like common sense, right?
Well, I don't believe it. I'm just telling you what the headline is.
Okay, but let me just tell you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So let's just say you take the United States and you take all the applications, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I live in freezing New York right now, am I applying for a mortgage? Am I going out to look at houses in the snow? I'm just asking.
I know. No, it's good. It's a good point.
So if they're saying that it's super cold right now and that weather's been really bad up north, if that's the case, well, duh, mortgage applications are going to be down. Are you saying now specifically in Florida?
No, this is just national data.
National data, right.
Yeah.
So again, what other contributing factors are in this? This is factors that are just factors that just happen because it's life.
That's what I mean, though. So
you can't read into everything that you see.
Correct. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Can you afford the mortgage?
Correct. That's the question.
Do you like the house?
That's the question.
Can you see yourself getting up every day to go to work for this house?
And I'll take that question a step further. Not only can you afford the mortgage with your lifestyle now, but what changes can you make to be able to afford the mortgage?
Like
That's another question.
I had a young guy, this was years ago, buy a house with me. Do you know what I did? I took a crock pot, filled it with all different kinds of things that he could use, towels, this, that.
Yeah.
Crock pot. Like, here you go, dude. Crock pot it.
Yeah.
I had somebody that they really wanted a house more money than what they could afford. And they said to me, they were like, we eat out every single night. And I said, if you were to eat out 5 nights versus 7, could you now afford?
That's what I
They're
mean.
like, but we're not willing to do that. You've made your decision.
But that's why I said that finance is only 20% math. Because think about it. If you
You're willing to
actually
make
do,
change.
if you actually do the math on certain things,
Yeah.
people that spend $10 a day on Starbucks, do the math on that.
Or Diet Coke.
You know what I mean? Like, just do the math. It'll make you sick. But the thing is in general, we don't, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes, like, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't want to sit down and do the math on that,
Right?
Because it'll tell you, hey. So I've had this conversation with a lot of clients that I feel open, that I can speak openly with, and it's, man, this mortgage payment is $200 a month more than I wanted. Right? Well, what is that $200 worth to you?
What does it equate to? Right?
Like, what are you willing to sacrifice to be able to become a homeowner?
Right.
Right? So,
And can you believe we've just ran out of time?
yeah,
So
like we always do.
I know we really got into this.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a
Buy
1
a
hour
house.
special one of these
Buy
days.
a house. Buy a house.
Yeah.
So, if somebody needs to get a mortgage, how should they reach out to you, Max?
The best possible way to get me is by my personal cell phone at 954-729-6933.
And if you're looking for a top agent, definitely give me a call, Laura Sanders, at 954-650-0827, or you can check me out on my website at lauracell.com. And until next week, make it a great one.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can